justice! We stand as one!
Are you gonna give me orders?
Welcome back, everyone. We're about to head into a Terran versus Zerg, TY versus Vanya, Korea versus Europe, all the good stuff. But first, let's talk about the wonderful people who actually made this happen. This is TeamLiquid's TSL, TeamLiquid StarLeague, powered by DreamHack and sponsored by Shopify Secret Lab, Ting, and Twitch. You should all get big love from you guys. I do believe there's also, if you're familiar at all with Ting, which I'm sure many of you are because they've been supporting StarCraft over many community events, we do have a code if you want to check it out. If you are someone like us and like many people around the world who spend most of your time indoors using only your Wi-Fi to ever like connect to the internet on your phone, why are you paying for data? I actually used Ting for quite some time myself. It really worked out. And you can get $25 in service credit for signing up through tsl.ting.com if you want to go ahead and reduce that cell phone bill. They're actually really cool. I first worked with them like 5 or 6 years ago at this point, meeting them over in Canada, although I am not Canadian, where any of you start, and talking to them about how cool StarCraft will be to sponsor. And here they are, many years later, sponsoring this awesome tournament. So big thanks to you guys, Ting, if you're in the crowd, and everyone else who helped make this tournament come together. Now, that said, I believe we are almost ready to go into TY versus Vanya. What do you think about this one, Wardy?
Yeah, I think TY Vanya is the one that people look at and say that's the biggest skill disparity in this bracket. And I have to say, in that kind of sense, I kind of think it's perhaps true as well. Vanya is a Russian Zerg who's started to make more of a name for himself lately, started playing more events, started to do well in these events. But how do you get yourself into this bracket? I don't know, like versus TY and then versus Trap if you somehow pull off the upset. That's brutal. Now, Vanya's good, and he can absolutely take down strong players. But a best of 5 against TY, ZVT, one of the most mechanically demanding matchups. It's one, but yeah, you can throw in some roach roll-ins, etc. But if that's all you've got, it's very predictable and very easy to counter that. So it's just not it's a matchup that relies so much more on those mechanics, more so than the strategy per se, and like other ways you can kind of outplay people. And I think that's where TY is just going to excel in this scenario. So
yeah, everything about this matchup actually just feels like it is going to go TY's way. I mean, it's flipping TY. I'm sorry, Vanya, but still doing well despite also commentating over at the GSL. TVZ, as you said, mechanically demanding. I don't think you get too many just like, aha, gotcha wins. I would say, I mean, Zerg, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but it also feels like when they say we don't have a lot of all-ins, which has been a Zerg critique of their own race for a while, they do talk a lot about versus Terran. And someone like TY who knows how good he is probably going to be on the lookout for a lot of those typical all-ins, the Roach Ravager all-ins, the Nidus Worms. And what does that leave Vanya with? Straight up macro against this beast. Good luck. Yeah. Good luck. Starting off on Zen for game number 1. Top right, as the Red Terran, he is TY. Telling you to go visit his YouTube, I guess.
YouTube, TY. Go type it in. Find TY's YouTube. He has some fun content on there. As in the bottom left, our blue Zerg is Vanya. And I would say, yeah, expect anything but the normal from him in this series. I think he's going to try and mix in like a Roach Rush. Maybe like a 2-base muter into like a Ling Bane attack. And maybe like a Roach build, which is like the 1/1 Roach timing or something. It obviously depends on how TY plays as well, but I would imagine like that kind of like a set of all-ins he's probably thought out. And that's what I just don't think you even try to take TY on in the macro game, do you? Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
If this was like a qualifier that you just want to have fun with because you're not even really looking to get through the Korean one, maybe you play macro to learn. You know, like you put me up against TY, I'm just like, haha, no chance. But maybe I can learn what it's like to get killed earlier than usual. No, but if you're looking to actually win, I think you gotta go with something, either cheesy or just, a bit of that kung fu, drunk kung fu type of style where you're just like, roaches, then mutas, no, then fast mutas, no, then a Nidus Worm, no, then quick hive, really trying to mix things up. TY, he might be a little bothered by the crossover stuff for bio, but I remember we talked a lot about that in your tournament when I was casting with you, Wardy. Talked about it in some of the Katowice qualifiers, and they just did not care. They still did bio.
Yeah, that was actually the whole like, oh, I'm playing with 300 ping and everyone is expecting me to play mech. Let me just bio 5 times in a row. I was like, what? TY as well has been very bio-centric lately, although maybe, I guess he has been one of the players that's been included in mech, even in TVP as well, so it's definitely not an unbelievable thing as he gets a beautiful block off there to get the first drone, and I feel like that drone going down is already like the series being set out for us. It's the kind of drone loss that I kind of feel is like it happens, right? But it just feels like the start of things that are going to happen a lot in this. So Vanya needs to just keep his cool, keep his head, and just play his best StarCraft. See what he can get done here against TY. Else this is going to be a bit of an ugly series.
Wardy's that super, just mean parent, Like, I'm totally with you, but also you're that parent that, the kid fails drawing class in preschool, and you just, you're just, shaking your head, man. You're just like, this child's going to grow up to be a disappointment. Never going to achieve anything. You lost a drone. Okay, Wardy, I didn't mean to lose the entire series. No. I do know what you mean, though. Even if we're not talking about, David versus Goliath situations, we are just talking about, what can happen to a Zerg when they get offset. That third hatch is delayed. That's a huge part of their opener, and it does kind of sometimes snowball. If a Reaper gets a second drone in the main, I don't even know. The kid's actually useless to Wardy now. We didn't.
I just F10N. I'm just going to go with the lobby for game number 2, Yeah, I mean, obviously didn't mean it quite as brutally as that, but it's one of those scenarios where it is this is one of those things where you've got to be on top of it. You've got to be ready to defend your drone on the third base. And again, TY is going to find opportunity after opportunity like that to edge out any advantage. Look at this consistent scouting as well. He doesn't even bother keeping the Reaper with the Hellions because he just wants to try and find out what's going on. He does see that gas on the natural. He will not have seen the Rotron that's now building as Vanya goes into 6 more drones. And it does feel like this is going to be 39 drones and then a lot of roaches. And then start the lair to actually just completely dissuade me from going into that. He could have done that 2 seconds earlier, Vanya. Wouldn't have sounded so silly. So he's going to keep building drones. And he's not going to go into a lot of roaches. Not just yet, at least. Could maybe go into something off the left, the +1 and a roach speed. So all eyes on that for the moment then. As TY just built a third CC. Stimpack's well underway. As Hellions continue to keep control of the map. And obviously TY for the moment is very safe and fairly well set up.
Well, I just want to point out that TY was temporary supply blocked. He's only at 5 Hellions, not 6.
Wow.
What a dork.
That is actually, I feel like there must have been kind of a serious supply block to only get 5 in the end, right?
Yeah, actually, I didn't pay enough attention to see exactly what was the problem, but I just noticed and I was like, did one die and I'm just blind? But
maybe he's just optimized the build.
What if he did? What if you don't need that 6 Hellion?
Well, if he was never supply blocked and you've just made a horrible assumption.
True. What if he did just fake? That's a very good point. You know what? But he supply blocked again, so I'm correct.
Okay, I'll allow it this time, ZG. I've seen it with my own eyes now. I'm a believer.
Of course, third CC is going to finish up. He chose a very basic build, very flexible build. Immediately went into a tank after the Hellions were produced. 5 of them, not 6. They're just seeing double engineering base, very typical stuff. So 2 tank push could be nasty. I feel like I'm going to like the roaches here, though. We saw this at Katowice, where for all the points we would talk about how a bio player could push into a Zerg player and really pressure them on that Nightshade little ridge or in Zen, a shorter map up into the ramps. For all which we talked about that, we had Rogue was it? He actually went for roaches and went for a 1-1 all in a couple times, and other times just roaches. But the point is a different way of actually dealing with a push like this, and then yes, actually having the potential to bring it to your opponent who's expecting to be in control of the game, as TY certainly is, not just playing bio but also probably perceiving himself as the better player. So this could work out, but on the other hand, roaches are simpler to size up. So I think they take away the surprise Banelink hit chance that you sometimes see. We'll see how it goes. It's actually very aggressive into the natural, not where I was expecting this, but it's already working.
There's a sort of attack you expect on the bottom side to the right of the main base or so, right? As he's actually going to get the Evo Chamber build and Carapace. So he's going to deny one of the upgrades already. And he's going to get out of here. This cost him a siege tank, but to deny an upgrade? I mean, that's massive, because it was pretty far along as well. And if this was intended to be a 1-1 roach attack, well, you're taking one of the ones out of its CG. And it's just a +1 attack. And especially if Marines have +1, the roaches don't have carapace, they get shredded so much faster. And if you're relying on the roaches being able to, seriously break through and overwhelm, to not have that upgrade is very painful. And let's see what Vanya does, because he's at 66-ish workers. This should be the point where he just makes units if he wants to go with the upgrade, and it looks like that is the plan. It's just, again, without that carapace, I get that little bit more worried about the success chances of this.
I'm with you. It's also really sucky because he lost. TY was late to one upgrade, but he got probably the most important upgrade for the Terran, which is that +1. So I'll talk about the way the army would interact with this is pretty important. TY, though, notably is late to his own +1 armor, so this could be an opportunity to at least have even upgrades, even though you really should have had the 2-2. His macro was actually good. He started on the right time. He just ended up losing it. But the drops are going to buy more time for TY to potentially finish +1 armor if he continues doing this. But Vanya really should at some point be like, you know what? I have enough to send some back here and enough to send some over here, which TY does seem to be anticipating. He's got a bit of a wall. He's got a bunker. You don't really go up that natural ramp. It's basically impossible, although it has happened. So that third is a little more important. But Vanya is ready to go. +1 carapace or not, he's going to try and bust TY here. And his +1 armor also isn't done. His tank out's decent. No marauders involved yet, if they even will be. Just trying to get as many units as possible and trying to fit in a second factory too, but it's not going to help here. Not right now, as the bunker goes down instantly to the corrosive biles. They're going to be looking for the tanks next. And already jumping on top of the Marines. Vanya just does not give a damn, man. He just pushed through everything.
Yeah, he just wants to bust on through. He's not going to wait around. He only has a few roaches left, a few ravagers, but now the Lings are going to start streaming in against not that many Marines. He's losing a lot of workers across the map, but obviously so will TY. As this attack continues, he might lose the main base. Well, TY still losing SCVs, 26 now dead as everything on the natural went down. This siege tank just gets saved from the corrosive pile. But Vanya is going to keep on pushing through here, and he's going to go, looks like he'll turn back toward the third. He does lose that main. That's massive. Obviously loses the spawning pool as well. That's not as big of a deal just yet, although it stops him from producing more Zerglings. He actually has a lot of gas in the bank, so I'm not sure how worried he is about that. TY down 20 workers. He pulled out the base count. Not sure if TY really recovers from this, though.
Yeah, I mean, you kill a base, and it is the lair as well, so stops the technology from advancing if Vanya needs to, but I don't think he needs to. He could actually just continue maxing on roaches and ravagers. So yeah, you're right about the spawning pool also not mattering as much. He has his upgrades in a much safer place this time, so he's going to finish up +2 and have an upgrade lead again. And he killed almost 40 workers. He's doubling the supply right now, and there's no wall to stop him from once again busting into TY's army, not caring that he's just going to take all this damage while he walks in because he has so much stuff, and it gets him to the tank to take it out. GG. Vanya, with taking game number 1, suddenly has everyone rethinking this series. A typically safe 3-0 on the bracket. If you're like Warden, you're like, I need 1-3-0, what's it going to be? And you're like, this one, right? Well, now you're wrong. I'm wrong too. I did that as well, so that sucks. But really cool for Vanya as game number 1, man. Is this a new Patak? Gonna be talking about him for years to come, thanks to his Nation Wars show. But now it's the TSL 5 show where the non-Koreans do well. Oh my God. Is this the non-Korean winning tournament? Is it finally going to happen, Wardy?
For the sake of my bracket prediction, I hope so.
Oh, did you guess a lot of non-Koreans to win?
I feel like I was very fair in my predictions.
Okay.
I'm not going to reveal them all at once. No, I did have TY to 3-0 Vanya, though. The thing is, I feel like TY doesn't really prepare for this attack properly, right? He sees what this is. He sees there's a lot of roaches, and I feel like in every sense of the world, you just have a couple of extra bunkers up, especially if you're dropping across the map against it. But actually, this got very close with what Vanya had left, right? Imagine TY has like the extra 16 Marines at home. I think that is way more viable, because if he has those extra 60 Marines, I don't think Vanya actually breaks him down. And then you're obviously in a position where, okay, you don't kill 12 drones across the map, but you're kind of fine anyways, because you're playing against Roach Ravager, which, okay, like it's a comp, but isn't a great composition as the game goes by. I just feel like the units across the map, if you have those units across the map, you need at least a couple more bunkers. And what he didn't do as well is he didn't pull the SCVs to buy time, right? And that's a pretty typical move where you get the SCVs in front of all the bio, and you then have that kind of buffer, because the whole idea is you kind of survive the first surge of Roach Ravager, which builds up so quickly and so powerfully. And if you survive that, yeah, you lose SCVs, but you can rebuild them. You know, again, Roach Ravager doesn't do well over time. You keep your tanks alive longer. It's a completely different game. So not only do I think TY was... I just think a couple of ways that TY was kind of maybe a bit off that game, which is obviously not kind of how you expect TY to play. Kind of surprising. And maybe something to mention here is that TY is going to be playing against Dark and GSL soon. And that's kind of a big thing where maybe he feels like he can win the series without taking, you know, without showing everything he's got. And that's something to keep in mind. I don't think it's necessarily like a game which he lost because of the build or anything like that, but sometimes it's more than just the build order in that respect as well, where it's like, sometimes it's like you don't want to quite sure how you play against this sort of thing exactly. So you just try and like, oh, I'm just going to drop him and, you know, get some damage and be ahead from there. I don't know. Just something else to keep in mind. But hell yeah for Vanya. This game is his.
It's worth considering, although typically, you know, if his plan was like, not going to show anything, just play pure macro, we still would have expected him to win that. So it's, no matter how you spin it, it is a surprise. In the top left, down 1, it is the Red Terran, TY.
In the bottom right, our blue Zerg player is Vanya, taking that first map with an explosive push through of Roach Ravager. Nicely done.
I called it a bit earlier. I was like, I actually might like this Roach thing. You know, it brings the attention, it brings the pressure to the person who's not really expecting to be pressured. I mean, and I don't want to say it's an easy build to execute, but I feel like if not much else is happening, if your opponent's also doing something that's very standard, very, okay, I'll do my thing, except for that +1 carapace being sniped, then yeah, you can do it really well. TY was missing a lot of things. I think it really did not look like TY. Same with that parting maybe didn't look like 100% parting.
Yeah.
TY did not look 100% TY. I was a bit of a joke by bringing up the supply blocks, because usually it's like 1 for 2 seconds, not even, and it's, you know, negligible. But he had it multiple times. Like, I think he actually was slightly messing up his build, which you're right about the 16 Marines. It's actually a common talking point, right? When it comes to that 1-1 Roach push, or 1 Roach push in that regard. You know, if he had the 16 Marines back. But even without them, we have seen holds. And it just felt like he did not have everything lined up super correctly like a normal TY build would. It felt like he didn't take it seriously because he did scout it. The Hellion saw the army incoming, so he could have built a wall in an emergency. He could have pulled the SCVs like you were talking about, knowing how serious they can be. So it was like a bit of not being the regular TY and probably a lot of underestimating Vanya, especially after killing the upgrade.
Well, we'll see if TY decides to level up a bit maybe for this game number 2. We see that a lot, right? Where these guys come in, they lose the first map, and like, oh. And then they just like turn it up a notch and like, all right, you know, time to be real serious now, and they definitely like kick it into gear. I think this is amazing for Vanya though, right? Because if you win the first game, it calms your nerves a little bit, right? It settles you down. You know, now you're like, okay, maybe I can do this, right? And you believe in yourself a bit more. And it's that silly little mental thing of, you know, having that belief and having that, you know, truly kind of the idea that you can win. Suddenly you're like, well, okay, now I can, you know, I'm a god. I'm going to play like a god. And then you do play like a god, right? And we've seen that before as well, where sometimes the underdog is like, you know, when they finally get that one map, they're like, oh my goodness. And then the entire series looks different from that point on. So, yeah, very excited to see what Vanya pulls out now as he goes into a 330 Roach run. And we'll see if he's got some plans. Very similar to the last game, right? Where he's going to add on like 6 more drones and go to 39. And that's kind of why I thought he was going to go for the Roach Lingle in last game. But he didn't. So maybe potential for that again. We'll see if he starts up the lair in the next few moments. If he's going to macro up.
Well, yeah, one game you show it, the next game... The one game you show it but don't do it, the next game you actually do it. Which can be a very powerful strategy. You know, the alternative to your, you know, hype about Vanya, is him losing all his drones instantly. Hopefully not going to happen. But these two Hellions already getting some scouting.
2 more.
And getting 5, 6, 7, 6 drones.
Yeah,
but
things across the map. That's actually really nice here. A couple of Hellions just now popping out. Okay, well, you lose a couple of SCVs. It's a nice little counter.
Yeah, could have probably gotten 4 SCVs. I feel like targeting the Marine or letting them target the Marine wasn't the best call. Anyways, I was going to say alternatively, they get really overconfident. They're like, TY, I guess he's not a big deal. And they screw up. But now I'm with you. I think there's a great change in confidence, you know, coming into this being like, no expectations can be really nice, but also having confidence can be helpful. It looks like TY is taking that Roachborn seriously. I believe last game he did not get a Banshee. He actually just swapped off his factory onto Tech Lab to build a tank after the 5 Hellions, as it were. He could have done it again and been safe, but it probably is a little bit scary because he just gave away not just some Hellions, but also a bit of that scouting, just now getting back up on top of it. Could have been the exact moment, you know, 7 roaches pop type thing. So the Banshee is a safety Banshee, does throw off that factory production a little bit. I'm guessing that's mostly what it throws off. Yeah, because you don't swap it. But it looks like he wasn't even going to go into particularly quick tanks anyways. He's building reactor. And well, last game he got a snipe on that +1 carapace, but ultimately did not end up helping. He still lost the game. So different ways of getting into a macro game, but still getting there. Vanya now adding his evolution chambers for 1-1. And yeah, playing with the Roach game still. TY should be... He should be aware of this and more on top of this game.
I like that TY just go back into the tanks though, right? Because I think he's already figuring out like, oh, you like to play roaches, and so he's probably going to respond to that and play, you know, tanks maybe sometimes when he wouldn't build tanks. You know, sometimes, you know, some builds just don't get a couple of tanks early and push with them. But I think in this series now, TY is probably like, okay, well, if this is how you like to play, I'm going to get those tanks. It's only going to be good for me. There's nice harassment too. Liberator Force and a couple of drone pulls. It's also been the Banshee that got in for an extra kill or so as well. This is a lot of lost mining time. He's even going to get some more drones. So they come back a bit too soon. 3 extra works. I mean, 3 extra works is a huge deal. Like if you lose 1, okay, it happens. But 3? That's a lot.
Yeah. The urgency, not just to get back to mining, guys, but also to get back to everything else. You don't want to just look at that one piece of the map for 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Can be, you know, a bit overpowering. So you send him in a bit early. But on to the 1-1. Simulacrum for a while was where I thought I was seeing the most 1-1 roach pushes, and then it kind of died off and, you know, comes and goes type thing. But you do have a nice opportunity to split your forces and try and hit 2 locations. I mean, 3 technically, I guess. You could really try, but this time there's no tank sacrifice, which is more what I was thinking when I said like those tanks are coming out as quickly. He's doing a double drop, which did get a hatchery last game, but no tank sacrifice for the +1 carapace. So the question is, was sniping the carapace actually the good thing for that tank, and it was just other things that were bad about his defense? Or is the, you know, having 1 more tank actually going to be the big difference? These Marines actually finding a decent number of roaches, usually going for the economy, creep spread, queens, but finding, you know, 6 roaches, it's also not bad.
Double drop so far has been great. 4 drones, 4 roaches or so. You know, that combination is just fantastic. And now Vanya's all focused on the bottom side of the map, and there's going to be a drop clean now creep a little bit further north here. So he's going to be able to get those creep tumors nice and quickly. Loads the Marines back into the medevacks. Keeps them alive too. Across the board, good effort here from TY so far, as he's doing all the right things. Now we're actually going to get a perfect chance to just see version 2 of TY trying to hold this attack, right? Like, here we go. There's 1-1 Roach Ravager attack coming across. This time an extra bunker or so coming up, but not ready yet, CG. I think you absolutely have to pull these SCVs.
Well, I think he has a bit more depth potential here. You know, that one thing about his setup last game is that he did not have... He could only put his units so far away, is what I'm trying to say. Whereas for this one, not only does he have to get through the choke to hit 2 tanks, admittedly they were stacked up, but like, you know, tanks in the high ground are also better, like actually possible on this map as opposed to the last one. So he's actually going to just say immediately, okay, no, that's not going to work. He's prepared at all. And going to adding in Banelings, which can try and cause some of those, I miscalculated the Baneling numbers, but loses the 4th base. He could double expand though, I feel. Like, I'm not sure he has to be terrified of... Okay, that's exactly what he does. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, just double expand, because then it's hard, you know, if these drops continue in one direction, you also force drops in the other, at least to then truly take you off the 4th base. Losing the 4th base in general, though, is kind of rough, just as Vanya added the drones to start making use of it as well, right? You know, you don't really need much past 66 workers once you're on 3 bases. But 4 bases, yeah, you want to add a few more. That's just what Vanya did just as his 4th base goes down. you made a really great point about the choke point, and you're right. You know, the tanks, it's not going to be able to get all the tanks right away, so that's why he decides to back off and play a longer game here and going to transition into, you know, Lings and Banes. That +1 melee starting now, the Baneling speed on the way up. This is a fun drop in the main base. He actually drops on top of these roaches, just saying 3 medevacs of units is going to be more than enough. So he jumps in, and now he's going to start getting some overlords as well. So TY is going to put a heavy supply block on Vanya. Overlord still not started as Lings are dying in the middle of the map. And now TY is looking as though he's starting to be just absolutely everywhere.
Drop it every which way. This will drop a little close to his other one, though, so it's going to be cleaned up. He's got to be careful not to corrosive bile his own Banelings, specifically. That'd be a waste. But he is not losing his bases this time. Both hatcheries up and running. Typical Hook's about to finish. You're right about that supply block lasting a little while, but at a good army supply. So even if that was a supply block with TY coming forward, he still would have had enough, and that done, he is going to be able to max out. Same as TY. I mean, TY, he doesn't die to the same push. That's great. That's, you know, step number 1. But he still eventually has to push out. Well, I guess technically he doesn't. He could play a very turtly Terran style, but usually Terran pushes out, and that still is going to give Vanya an opportunity to catch him by surprise. Corrosive Biles, Banelings. I will say that Vanya, you know, we're seeing the macro test now. You know, this creep spread it's going the direction it needs to, but not strong enough, I would say. Here comes the push now, and it's already going to be on that little corner unless he tries to bounce on top of it. Might be the right call to try and grab a couple of units that are a little too far forward, but yeah, he does grab the tanks as well.
I like it, right? If you get the siege tanks especially, those are some of the real power units in this army comp. You know, TY is still building more and more siege tanks because there's no mutalisks or anything here, so you can really sit on the tanks for a long time in this game. So cutting down that number really takes away one of, you know, the key parts of TY's composition. And Vanya makes that a little bit scary for TY to get going once again. Will be worth mentioning, I think, right? TY's upgrades, 3-3 on the way. And Vanya's getting 2-2, but not the usual 2-2. He actually already has +2 carapace, but he doesn't have any missile or melee attacks yet. So working toward that is going to be, I think, you know, still, he can still fight against 3-3 of a Terran, but it's definitely going to give TY some better fights for a while, especially considering Vanya's hive is only just now on the way up. Really feels like TY has like 2 or 3 minutes here before this composition from Vanya really levels up or changes that much. So a long time where you can get a lot done. Maybe the only thing that comes in sort of soon off the hive is maybe some Vipers to help out with those siege tanks.
Yeah, exactly. The Vipers would be really, really helpful. But they're going to have to wait for the hive to finish, build, and then to consume energy. Now, TY is not in any hurry to throw the game, to throw the fight away. Because, yeah, as you learned last time, even being slightly late, slightly forward, he got a couple of his tanks killed. So he's being very cautious about pushing into an army that is very good at swamping, at surrounding, at pulling the trigger quickly. Oh, wow. Vanya actually going to go for the big surround. Maybe a little mistimed, and a lot of it is off of creep. The Banelings might not connect a lot of these Marines. They have a concave on the backside, but as I say it, a decent amount do. Vanya's concave works out wonderfully for Zerg to actually maybe win this game. He's going to continue pushing. A bunker still left over. I guess a relic from the hold against the 1-1 Roach push, but with more tanks, somehow 3 tanks actually just coming forward. That is going to be a hold, but I thought that was supposed to go much better anyways. I saw Banelings off of creep against the Korean Terran concave and was like, psh, they're not going to hit. And then they did, and I'm like, oh god, no. Like, TY, don't do this to me. But he had enough.
You're right about the timing as well, though, right? If this bottom army comes in sooner, the top army gets so much more done because TY, while it didn't go maybe super well from at the end, he got so many pickoffs initially because the top army was off creep and kind of just, you know, Banelings were trying to connect and getting killed before they got there. And eventually it was the Banes on the bottom side that did come through. The Banes on the bottom side did get on top of the army of TY. And that was obviously, I think, very important and gave them that little bit of push through pressure. But look at the rebuild here. TY is already up at what? You know, 200 supply again, and Vanya's at 170. He has some money in the bank. TY's been trading well, and he's got so many bases around the map. And it feels like Vanya's never really gotten to a proper economy. You know, he's sitting on 70 drones. And maybe that's part of why this army looks so scary, because he's on a higher drone, he's on a lower drone count than you'd expect from a Zerg, so he had more army supply all at once. Something else to consider, because we're going to have another fight on the bottom left-hand side kicking off right now.
Yeah, very aggressive moving in here, but TY actually already with reinforcements. The Banelings, those types of Banelings, they got to push it all back or just not push it back at all. And that was not at all. One attempt to really just push TY back into his base, get the momentum. didn't work out. And you're right to point out that the economy just wasn't there to support round 1, 2, 3, 4 of that. I also wanted to mention before that big concave came in that I didn't really like Vanya's choice to go into Ultralisks either. Not only do you have the Terran at this point transitioning into things that would help against Ultras, I feel like getting an Aspire with the Hive would have given him access to Corruptors. So let's pretend he just played out a macro game and didn't try to win with that push. He's just holding on. Then he has Corruptors and he has Vipers, and then more scuffles happen, and the potential Broodlords opens up. But the Ultralisk, I feel like, just weren't going to help quickly at all. And he still was having trouble against the drops.
He didn't build any Vipers, right?
No, he never got the opportunity to.
Yeah, I feel like Vipers would have even been better than the Ultras. Like Vipers maybe into Ultras or something. Just something to help your army. Because...
So I'm wondering if that was a defensive surround, more like, okay, I have one opportunity to break this, and then it went so well, he was like, okay, let's just roll with it.
Attack.
Yeah, because I think if his plan was just defend, then after he swamps the army on the low ground, he doesn't push into the high ground. He just pulls back and tries to continue defending. Still might lose the game because his army was getting worse and worse as time went on. But it might have been an opportunity where he just couldn't pass it up, but he meant to build into Vipers.
Yeah. The thing is Vanya, though, and I feel like Vanya is, we talk about him being aggressive, and so Vanya is the kind of guy to just say, let's go, just gonna, just jump on this, I see an opportunity, I fight. Yeah, it's a lot of questions, really. I guess the work account really comes into it so much, too. Because you're right, that fight did go kind of badly for TY, but bounced back beautifully, as he is going to get himself now tied up in the series 1-1 and going into a nice macro map. Eternal Empire. In the bottom left, it is TY.
In the top right, it is the blue Zerg. Vanya, still a big surprise, even though he has now lost a game against TY. Yeah, I think that fight was also not just Vanya not having any backup, but also TY not actually sending his reinforcements forward. So having those 3 tanks just pop, I was like, where the heck were they hiding? What were they doing? Well, chilling apparently, which still worked out fine for him. So you talked about Vanya's style. It worked out for him once in that first game. I do believe that really looking back on it, it's just the map was so well suited for that style. The I don't care, let me move in. Most of these other maps are going to have, at the very least, opportunities to put tanks on like high ground ledges, which gets a lot worse. You can't just instantly bop all the tanks out of the equation. And this is assuming that Vanya will be continuing to do Roach styles. Eternal Empire is, when we see a lot of Muta lane Baneling, as Muta has come back into the meta hard. It's what most people are doing now. But Vanya might just like how much he can actually go on an instant with the type of army that he has. It's the aggressive one. It's you preparing for my 1-1 push, and then me deciding not to do it, and then you feeling scared of my army, so you only drop me. Like, even though TY was doing drops and he was controlling the game, I could see how Vanya prefers that than the Muta lane Bling style, which feels like it has more of a point of snowball. Like either I defend that 2-tank push well or I don't. Either I get my creeps spread out or I don't. Either I get mutas out on the offensive and harassment or I don't. And things just snowball from there. But you might know more than me. Is he just usually that Roach player?
Yeah. Yeah, like,
there you go.
I was surprised he made a Baneling nest, so... Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was like always like a more aggressive Zerg, and in fairness, like, I'd say over the last half year, he worked a lot more in his macro game. But like the aggro macro, where it is the more aggressive compositions, I'd be very like, he might play Ling Bane Muta, but only if he goes for like a very heavy like 2-base Muta opener. And like I was saying in the intro, like if he does that, I almost expect him to like hit like a Ling Bane timing off of no upgrades or as 1-1 hits, like go really aggressive off like a lower drone count still.
Yeah.
I think that's just Vanya through and through still. So yeah, I mean, I'm not too surprised to see him like pull away from the Roach Ravager attack in game 2, but to and to then kind of go into macro, but like to stay on that more aggressive comp for so long was not really too surprising. This is a bit of a faster layer, so we'll see what he wants to do with that, as he is having his 3rd base blocked.
Well, easy scout. Speed's not done. Reaper gets into the main to see the forming lair. Still no attempt at a 3rd hatch quite yet. TY did go for a faster third CC, but we can see here that he's actually so confident in A, still saying no speed, and B, Vanya's Roach characteristic, that he doesn't even bother going into Hellions with all this scouting. He actually just adds a tech lab and continues building Marines, which if you're going to be facing someone going for like a Roach all-in, then it would make sense. Hellions don't help that much, but you still don't have a Roach Warren, so is it 2-base Spire then? Which also, again, Hellions don't help against.
Yeah, I guess it's just like a very fast 2-base meter play. So he's going to start this Spire just after 4 minutes. Might have something to do with the fact his third base was being blocked, right? You know, you can't get the third hatchery up early. There's no good alternative on this map. So you just accept early, like you're going to say, okay, I'll just go 2 bases, you know, for a little bit longer, get the lair up, and go in towards the Spire. It's been one of the ways that Zergs have dealt with that for a while. So yeah, 2-base Spire, but you've got to be very careful with this because we saw Vanya losing some drones in the last game. Obviously, this is the sort of scenario where you don't play like a lot of Lings right away. So yeah, he's actually going to make 16. So he will have plenty of Lings to defend the Hellions this time. It's not as, you know, it's not super greedy 45 drones or something right away and no units.
Wow.
Yeah, there's no Hellions anyway, so...
Yeah, unfortunately, he doesn't need to make those Lings.
Yeah, it's kind of like... It's just kind of one of those scenarios where it's just like, he's almost doing like the right thing, but it's the wrong thing.
Yeah, I mean, this would usually be the safe call, and then a Balin Nest usually comes down as well. For still a decently timed centrifugal hooks, despite also investing so much in Aspire. This is going to get aggressive, so while there are no Hellions, keep talking about that, so he doesn't use them defensively, the lack of Hellions actually just means there's a decent number of Marines. So using them offensively doesn't work either, when usually that is a weakness of no Hellions. But TY was just really building off of them for so long. I do still think this was a reaction more than a build. I know TY has like a double, 530 medevac drop build off a fast third CC, but I'm pretty sure this was just a reaction. Nonetheless, he has a decent number of Marines. He'll defend, and he also might still be able to drop. It seems counterintuitive against mutas, but sometimes it is the one of the good things to do if you feel confident holding at home. But that's the question.
Well, he's still... He saw the lair so early, right? So he was able to react. As you're going to be seeing now, these Lings commit in, but it's going to be a pretty good response from TY. Gets onto the ramp. 3 SCVs lost. All of those Zerglings. Yeah, that's something TY will be very happy about. This is going to make this defense from Vanya a little bit more tough. If TY does get across the map, obviously that's what the middle's job is now, to try and stop these Marines getting across as those poor Lings just trapped in the back.
Yeah. It looks like he's once again missing +1 armor. So he must just be typing it so fast that it's like...
Yeah.
It's not even doubling up, so I'm not sure what he's...
He's just too quick at StarCraft.
Yeah, that's my excuse for him. This might look better with Banelings. This looks terrible without. This looks like a big question mark.
See, this is the sort of thing I expected from Vanya, but with Banelings, right?
Yes. No, I'm totally with you. That was a frustrating, all-in that would kill you, and you'd feel like real dummy. Back in the Heart of the Swarm.
Maybe this works if he does go Hellions initially as well, and you can swarm in, get surrounded on the Hellions. There's less Marines, there's no stim, but I mean, no, this obviously right now is absolutely not working. He's gonna don't do it again. Oh, Vanya. Stop. Okay, well, he will stop by leaving the game. As TY takes game 3. That was a good read on TY. I mean, just a good scout, right? And then he reacts, doesn't build Hellions. And then it's almost like Vanya was like, oh, I expect you to build Hellions, like I was saying. He's like, usually I die to Hellions around now, running my base. I'm going to make Lings. And it's like, there's actually not a Hellion on the map. And it's just, those Lings do nothing for you. Like, you get across the map and yeah, it just felt like he was playing around Hellions that didn't exist all game long, because even if those Lings come across the counter, maybe that hits when the Hellions are across the map, right? And it's like they come in, they're very powerful. Lings early against Marine only open is actually pretty good as well, right? If you get into a position where you open Marines to skip Hellions and they float 20 Lings, it's one of the weaknesses of a 2-on-1 opener, for example. So it's just those Lings were too late for that as well. So I'm just not sure what it was actually. It felt like he wanted to go for this Ling Bay meter all in, but then he didn't build Bane. I don't know. It's kind of what I expected, but then missing the key element. So
I think the way it was supposed to go was you're supposed to have 4 at least Hellions, if not 6. and then you surround the Hellions because they're not paying attention. You kill them. You follow up with Ling Muta. They have basically nothing because Marine production is very light when you have that happen.
Yeah.
And then you win. That's works.
That's the issue, right? It's like, because it's 3 racks, there's just so many Marines, not just already out, but continuing to produce.
Yeah.
I think
that's
that's
that third CC.
The more we, it's like, you throw it back to GSL the other day, and it's like when TY went for like the 2-1-1 against Solar Unituses.
Oh, yeah.
TY makes Solar look really stupid because, Solar attacks and the, 2-1-1 just absolutely destroys it. And it's like, well, that was, Solar's like, well, that didn't work. And I look stupid now. And everyone's like, God, Solar's so bad. Solar's not bad. It's just TY's build/reaction was just so much better against what Solar's build choice was. And everything TY did in this game just made anything that Vanya tried to do look bad. And again, it's maybe you can comment that Vanya didn't change it up based on what he saw. But it feels almost like TY was just like step ahead. I feel like I'm repeating myself because it was kind of a very one-sided game.
I guess the one thing I'll note is that if he had those 20-ish Lings that died being trapped as they were, the other thing about those early engagements is that you can't underestimate Lings and Glaive Worm against combat shieldless Marines.
Yeah.
They stim once they're injured. They take a tank splash, for instance, they're super injured, and then they actually all get like one shot basically. With no tank, they're stimming, injured themselves, and then Glaive still actually works out. You have to get us around though, and you still have to have just more army than what he had. So I think that was also maybe the reason we saw him actually try, because I think we're right about like one of those like, oh, he just had the better response and the build order just wasn't going to work anymore. But then when we saw him try and like dedicate onto a fight that just like clearly wasn't working, I'm guessing he does it usually and like knows how effective it can be.
Yeah.
It can be one of those engagements you're like, oh, wait, hold on. There's not 10 extra health. Like, wait. But no, there was just too much. So just kind of trying to give credit to where it's due. The example of Solar's Nidus Room is actually perfect because it is very similar. Like, it's not that Solar's build is bad or Vanya's build is bad. It certainly is a little cheesy, but it just did not work out against TY. He was able to get the, he was just smart. He got his brain working there and dealt with it very well. So it seems to be going back to what we would expect, guys, with the Korean Terran winning out. In the top left, he's now up 2-1. It is TY.
In the bottom right, our blue Zerg player is Vanya. I feel like if you don't look at game number 1, the series looks kind of exactly as we were predicting it at the start, right?
Just, one cheese and then
like cheesy, just kind of like heavy aggression in a couple of different ways. Just he actually did win out game number 1, so it went a little bit better for Vanya than we were expecting. A bit more doom and gloom at the start, but that's kind of why, because the last 2 games really felt like Vanya had like one good fight in the last 2 games, and that was the fight that actually ended up losing him the game, because then the counter attack came in and won for TY. So yeah, it's I just hoping Vanya can pull something together. This is Nightshade, a map which Terrans typically love. Easy to attack on. If you get countered, you can pull back and rotate back into your aggression very easily, so it makes counterattacking as the Zerg very weak. Typically means that Vanya might open with like a roach attack or something just to try and get an early lead and to offset some of the advantage Terran just naturally has from the map. I guess Vanya's style, if he plays Roach Ravager, obviously he doesn't get affected by that as much, but it's also a very good map for tanks against Roach Ravager because it's very choky, lots of ramps in the center, and very easy defense across the bases too if you end up going into a longer game against Roach Ravager. So yeah, I'm not sure what Vanya really does, for the best here. I'd say kind of like something like a faster Roach attack, because we've not really seen that yet, right? Where you've seen the Roach run go down, you've not actually seen a commitment to Roaches still. We've always seen just him going in towards like 1-1, Roach speed, plus 1-1, and, really getting ready for the attack later in the game. So maybe attack earlier.
I mean, a good old-fashioned Ling Roach Ravager all-in, I don't think would be out of the question or really stupid. As much as TY has been kind of like cautious of it, getting, that Banshee, for instance, in the second game, a very safe thing to do. Something like last game where he was like, okay, need to respond by not getting Hellions. If that was somehow, it obviously couldn't be, but if it was somehow Ling Roach Ravager, his lack of Hellions is actually really deadly, because the the Lings are really what we know is the power behind it. The Roaches and Ravagers is there to break the walls. It might still work against someone who has been a little off in Italian production, has chosen to respond strongly to builds he perceives as happening, and he's been correct, to be fair. But it is also your last game, and I think closer to the potential of winning would be just another typical 1-1 Roach push. I mean, you described it, and it's just one of those things where it's like, not to take away from your point, but it's StarCraft. It's like, I would say hard counters thankfully don't exist too often, because as much as we can talk about, tanks being good in this position against these units, we have a person set up a surround and we're like, well, that just took everything out of the order. Like, of course it doesn't work anymore. So I would still say do it, even if TY expects it, even if he has everything set up perfectly, as I think more Vanya in an ideal scenario is facing this guy for the first time again and has TY take the forward base and doesn't siege his tanks and doesn't get bunkers, obviously. But even if he doesn't, even if he takes this conservative third, even if he knows it's on the way, I mean, he knew the first one was on the way and he still lost. So yeah. I'm going to say it's his best bet. And we do see a Roach Warren on a similar time again as the past games where he's done it.
Yeah, it's a couple of Overlords this time, which usually suggests maybe the idea of making that chunk of Roaches.
True.
A couple of Queens get in position, and there we go, 8 Roaches. And you know what? TY goes Cloak Banshees. That's such a heartbreaker for Vanya.
Yes, exactly.
Because TY made one defensive Banshee once, right?
Yes,
but to just go straight up Cloak Banshee is just, you're already on the way to defense against this attack, which he hasn't scouted. He has no ideas coming. He's just blindly being safe. And we actually do see Cloak Banshees a lot on this map. You can go between bases easily. It's good for Cloak Banshees. And Zergs do like to try and end it early because it is a bit more of a Terran-favored map. Well, you kind of need some luck here as Vanya. Yeah, he knows now as well, TY, so you should be able to get the Banshee in position. Did the Banshee even move across the map? I don't think so.
Yeah, not only that, he was holding on for the Banshee. He was continuing to produce Hellions past 6.
Yeah.
You don't really want to do that unless you're doing a Hellbat attack or you know that you need those Hellions, because as I've been saying, the Lings are the real terror of this build. They're the ones that are going to get max amount of damage. The Roaches, SCV pulls are even effective somewhat against them with the Banshee, 2 Banshees helping out, so it feels like he saw this one coming. I said it would be decent thing to try, but in this case, TY was totally prepared.
Yeah, this is the best case preparation scenario. He's going to lose very few, if any, workers at all. So far, the damage has been good. I will say losing a few Hellions now. Maybe these Lings arriving can do something.
Let them into the main base.
Yeah.
It was tempting because the choke was working out for him. Well, you know what? It might still end up working fine. He's got more Hellions on the way. 3 Hellions actually did survive against the SCV pull, and only 3 SCVs went down with the pull, so turns out it's fine.
Yeah.
A little bit scarier,
SCVs.
but it's fine.
5 SCVs is kind of not a lot anyways. People are like, well, the worker count's even. The worker count's even, but he's about to counterattack with 3 Banshees. He's going to have Hellions he could run by into a mineral line. You want to be further ahead than this as Vanya. And, now his tech is nowhere to be seen. There's no sign of potential upgrades. The lair only just started, so any sort of roach speed or anything is very late here. Yeah, and I mean, I'd be surprised if these Banshees do nothing, right? I mean, when was the last time you saw 2 Cloak Banshees of a Terran against a Zerg do nothing in the hands of a Pro Terran? Very, very rarely. Do they not at least get a handful of drones here or there? Even if they, trade out a little bit of damage, this was pretty bad. But then he actually has a 3rd Banshee as well. So, yeah, it's not looking great for Vanya, who does send around a Lings across the map, but there was still Hellions up. Marine production is now already kind of coming in quite nicely, and just don't see these Lings really getting much done either. And that's just more Lings that maybe could have been drones already.
Yeah, they could have been. The Hellions here are pretty important, and they're being controlled, also pretty important. If they're surrounded, this might be a couple SCVs killed. But the thing I wanted to note is that, while TY did not do... He got some things moved off himself. He handled that about as perfectly as you would. Losing 5 SCVs is not a big deal at all. He did delay his stim a little bit. 3rd Banshee often doesn't help. It will one-shot creep tumors. That's about all you really perceive. But it's not usually too much better than 2 Banshees. And here we see them not doing as much as they can. That's the only good news for Vanya. Otherwise, you're right. 5 SCVs is nothing. I would say bare minimum 20 SCVs have to go down if you don't get a cancel on a 3rd CC, which you did not. And even then, if it's 22 SCVs go down, even then, all the things you brought up with the Banshees at least controlling the map, the Hellion stopping any further run bys from doing damage, the Terran eventually getting to stim and medevacs, all that is going to swing possibilities in favor of the Terran. So to only lose 5 SCVs and have all those possibilities and save his 2 Banshees and not take damage, like everything is just going to work out well for TY, despite how the supplies don't look that bad. They are actually terrible for TVZ with a Roach guy as well. So the supply is supposed to be quite larger than this.
The supplies are meant to be swapped around and then even buffed up a little bit in terms of, if the Zerg player is doing okay here. So TY being up, he's up a worker, he's up 10 army supply, he's playing against roaches, his upgrades are a little faster. I feel like I've said this once more today when we're casting solo DRG, but in what way does Vanya have a lead here? And I'd struggle to name anything, really. TY even going to start sending some workers to long distance mine?
I guess, instead of being oversaturated.
Yeah,
he did have to stay in his main oversaturated longer than usual. Yeah, I was confused as well.
On the bottom side are picking up some extra kills here on the tail end of a fight. It's a little skirmish, and TY backed away pretty quick, but now these Banshees are here. They're going to get a few drones. There's just nothing these drones can do apart from mass build spores to survive or something. Vanya doesn't even have the money for that, so 6 more drones dead, and it's another hit to this economy as this one queen comes over. That won't do the job. The Marines are still here, and now Vanya going to spend all of his money morphing in Ravagers, but these Banshees are still just an issue on their own. They'll just continue to fly around chasing down queens. These Marines continue for the hatchery. They will have to lift up in the end, but it's very low, and obviously the Banshees can just come across and get that. The transfuse was just used on the queen, not one available for the hatchery, and the hatchery falls.
Vanya is still going to commit to the push he was setting up for, which is a 1-1 Roach push. So it's just, weaker and later than what you would have if you didn't do the first all-in. Will it work? No. Pretty sure it won't. Combat Shields done is the only thing I'm saying right now for Vanya, but he doesn't know that, I don't think. And he's not going to commit when he even has a timing here. Oof.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, Zichi. It isn't pretty. It's obviously kind of, TY is obviously going to want to play safe because he's playing against aggressive composition. He doesn't want to be caught too off guard, but I'm not even sure how scary Ling Roach Ravager is with no Banelings here or anything against this, a maxed out Marine tank force. And even if you catch it unsieged, I'm not sure this goes well for you. There's so many Marines in this. This is going to be Vanya trying something, but look at the Marines just swarming the Ravagers on the top of the fight. Never mind all the damage the tanks are doing. That is a hugely one-sided affair to wrap up game number 4 and to give TY that victory, which we did very much so expect. Vanya taking the first map. Unfortunately for him, it was kind of a downhill trend from there, and just kind of, I feel like game 3 looked a bit worse than game 2, and then game 4, game 4 didn't look bad in how he played it. It was just TY was so well prepared defensively. That Roach attack doing so little. That's just heartbreaking for Vanya, but he drew a very tough bracket. Of course, is still alive in the lower bracket, of course.
We stand as one.
Are you gonna give me orders?